Alrighty. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. It's great to see a real solid crowd for our first Koinonia and Cocoa. So Koinonia and Cocoa it's a new program sponsored by the Office of Campus Ministry. My name is Greg Meller. I serve as the Campus Minister for Faith Formation here at Moyne. And for those unfamiliar with the term Koinonia, is anybody familiar with the term Koinonia? Don't raise your hands all at once. We got 2, 3? Okay. Well, I explained to you guys. So Koinonia is derived from Greek and has the following meanings: communion, community, joint participation, a gift jointly contributed, a collection, a contribution. In a Christian context, Koinonia identifies the idealized state of fellowship and unity that should exist within the Christian church, the body of Christ. For those unfamiliar with the term cocoa, in tonight's context it is used to refer to hot chocolate. So just to clarify that. Thanks for your pity laughs. So tonight is an opportunity to open our hearts and our minds so that we may grow in our faith as individuals and as a Moyne community. We are blessed to have Father Darius Makuja, PhD, Associate Professor in the Religious Studies Department, as our presenter. A native of Sudan, Father Makuja is an accomplished theologian with a specialization in historical theology. It would take way too long to list all of his professional credentials and awards, so I'll simply repeat that he is certainly an accomplished professor. The format for tonight is as follows. Prior to drinking hot chocolate, Father Makuja will lead us in a prayer ritual. After, hot cocoa will be distributed by our wonderful volunteers over there. Following Father Makuja's presentation, there will be an opportunity for questions. If you'd like to ask a question, we ask that you please write down your question on one of the gold slips of paper at your table. Questions will be collected and chosen for Father Makuja to respond to. I would now like to invite up sophomore Shemesh de Leon Baez, who will formally introduce Father Darius Makuja.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shemesh de Leon. I'm a sophomore here at Moyne, and I major in biology with a concentration in pre-health. When I first met Father Makuja, it was the first time my religion class met this semester. The first thing he asked us was what we thought religion was. Specifically, what a monotheistic religion was. Islam, Judaism, and Christianity came up. Although he acknowledged that Judaism and Islam met this criteria, he had us questioning as to why Christianity did, because it had a Trinity, which is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. He said, if it has those three, why is it not three gods? Which immediately had me infuriated. I was annoyed, I was red, and I was like, no, it's just, the Trinity is the way that God has expressed himself to us. Within 20 minutes of having met him, he had questioning and defending my own religion, which to me was incredible. I thought he was an interesting person, but I wasn't really sure what to make of him. And then I found out he was a Catholic priest, and I was like, okay, I see what he's doing right there. He's just trying to get me and my classmates to question and be able to represent and present what our religion is. So at that moment I realized that I would have a great semester in his class, and that I will enjoy it. And now I would like to introduce Father Makuja, and I hope that you're able to take away from him what I've been able to take away from him in these few weeks I've known him. He's helped me understand more my faith journey and my spirituality, and I hope what he has to say does the same for you. Welcome, Father Makuja.
Thank you so much for your nice words. And to all of you, Jumbo. Jumbo! It just happened that there are quite a number of people I know in this, from my classes, different classes at different times. So as you see, there are a lot of gadgets before you and before all of us here. So we're going to have a kind of complex rituals here. In the first place, I want to say thank you very much for inviting me, being the first in this program the campus ministry started. And as usual, when you start something for the first time, it's always a challenge. You don't know what to do and where to start and where to go. They just told me, could you do something? Talk about your faith. Then I said to myself, creativity, as I tell to some of you, be creative. You're told something, think through, and then come up with something that may help people to reflect about their own faith, about your own life. And I think that, as Chima said, I always challenge you to not to just gloss over things or to take your faith for granted. You don't question it. It does not mean that you are going to disbelieve it, but you get to know better. And that's why when I challenged about the Trinity, they got a shock of their life. They didn't know what I was talking about. Now he's a good Christian. So today, Koinonia, as Greg has explained, so I don't need to explain a little more about that. But I want to explain to you, actually, there is some coincidence. When you talk about cocoa, actually, the world's largest export of cocoa is apparently a country in Africa. We call it their cacao. So that's what the local people call their cacao. And this is Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast. And there was a link with a company in Oswego near Fulton, and I think someone from Fulton, that they are producing chocolate. They had to get cocoa from Africa.
Oh, the Nestle's plant?
Yeah, you got it right, yeah. So the connection actually, the managers were coming from Ivory Coast to check this plant that was going to close down. So the cacao is an African stuff. You better not joke with us. So I'm so pleased to connect this Koinonia because in Africa, when people take cacao, it is in a family. We sit together, we serve it, but before we do that, we have to bless the ancestors, to invoke them to be present among us. And so, my talk is going to be based on this fact. My faith is based on my background, from my culture, from where I come from. It reinforces even my fact of becoming a Christian and a priest. It was just not accidental. So I'm not uprooted from my culture and left behind. All that I've gone through as a young teenager are influencing who I am right now as a priest and as a teacher. That plays a role. So we're going to start, therefore, by me invoking the prayers of invoking the ancestors. We're going to use a drum of the Anyi tribe of Ivory Coast. So I'm going to speak to the drum. And as I do that, I beat, because we want to invoke the ancestors of the cacao. And these ancestors we call them living ancestors. They are living, but they are going to be present here. And as I go to do that, I'm going to pour some drink as a libation. As a libation. Let's see here first. A libation, which means we are going to drink with these ancestors. We would have had what we call palm wine, but we don't have it, so I brought some wine, some kind of palm wine, American. But anyway, that will serve for now. So that's the explanation. So what I'm going to do is, I have a prepared text here, and I'm going to read it, and I will specifically mention, address the old ancestors, but first by blessing with water. In Africa, water represents life, represents God. And so all of us, as you come here in a Koinonia, we are going to be a community. In Africa, whenever we celebrate something, we do it together, but with the ancestors. And so I'm going to bless us that this water may truly represent, bring peace in each one of you sitting down tonight. That you are at peace with yourself, with your neighbor, with all of us here, and our ancestors will be right here, eating with us, drinking with us, the palm wine, the cocoa, the cacao, and some bread. Are we together?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry. Let's see. Maggie, come here. Good, good. See, one thing in Africa, the young people must help the elders to catch the stick. Yeah. Salute to Jesus, our greatest ancestor, to our ancestors of the distant past, for our recent living dead, to our living, for our yet to be born. Drum of our founding ancestors, messenger coming from the beginning of time. You, Ignatius of Loyola, our ancestor, the brave one, who, with your younger brother Simon Moyne, founded this beautiful college, Moyne College. Be glorified. All response say present. All together say present.
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 African saints and ancestors whom I'm going to invoke to be present tonight, and all of you, as I mentioned one, all of you loudly say present, okay? Anthony of Egypt, hermit and abbot.
Present.
Athanasius of Alexandria, teacher of faith.
Present.
Augustine of Hippo, bishop and doctor of the church. Present. Monica, mother of Augustine of Hippo. Present. Josephine Bakita of Sudan, religious and former slave. Present. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, Pan-Africanist and president. Present. Stephen Biko, political activist and martyr, South Africa. Present. Mwalimu Julius Nyerere of Tanzania, servant of God and president. Present. Patrice Lumumba, Democratic Republic of Congo, revolutionary leader and prime minister. Present. Uganda Matters. Present. Here, in your favorite drink, and I'm going to pour the palm wine. Here is your favorite drink. And I here pour as a libation to all our ancestors above mentioned. Always watch over us. Accept my compassion and of our brothers and sisters tonight. And sleep in peace. Drum word, memory of the ancients. We implore you now to speak. Be present and come among us tonight. Talk with us in the American way. Hi. What up? In the African way. Jumbo. Talk to us in the European way. Guten Tag. To Asia, talk to us in a nation way. Namaste. And in Latino way, ¿cómo estás? Bring justice and peace, unity in diversity in our community, Moyne. In our midst and in all our world, speak with us and bless each one of us as we share this koinonia. All together say amen. Amen. Now we can serve the cacao and we share together because with our ancestors. So I guess as the cacao is being served, I'm going to start my reflections very briefly within the context of my culture. Koinonia, as was already said, is a communion of fellowship, and hence in Christianity, it is used to refer both to the Christian participation in the life of God. So I think as Christians and as you people from the campus ministry, you really promote that communion. And the Koinonia, the event that you are starting, is very significant. It means it brings us communal fellowship, and it creates that unity. Belief in our ancestors is a common phenomenon of many traditional African peoples and expressions. Some African and non-African theologians have thought to draw parallels between African reverence of ancestors and the cult of the saints in Christianity. Christian belief in the communion of saints and the African traditional veneration of ancestors bring to the fore an important element of the African religious experience, where the experience and belief is the continued life beyond the here and now. African veneration of ancestors plays a significant role during any communal celebration and gives deep meaning to the African tradition of understanding and of the meaning of life and death. Ancestors in Africa are present in ordinary events of lives people or the lives of the people. And I truly believe through our invocation tonight, the ancestors, whether African or your own ancestors, are present in our midst, sharing this cacao. They are present in particular at this occasion when we celebrate as a whole community. Because for us, community is so important in our sharing of life, in our sharing of anxieties, our aspiration. As an African saying says, it takes a village to raise a child in Africa, and this sums it all. In Africa, friends, an ancestor is a blood relative and of the living community. This relationship could be of common parentage or shared ancestry. We care for our departed ancestors by keeping them warm, clothed, and fed. And by the symbolism we have done with this pouring of libation, they are feeding with us tonight. Ancestors watch over us through the intercession and protection. Every storytelling taught every detail of family stories, collective myth, legends, and fables. And that's why I love storytelling, because there's a lot to say about them. In return, the prayers offered for the living dead warm their resting place and give them a hand in their journey to eternal life. Their ongoing care for us keeps us united with them in one communion of the living and the dead, raised to life by the life-giving resurrection of Jesus Christ. So these introductory remarks and our ritual gives me an opportunity to share with you my faith, my story. It is very hard to share faith because it is something lived and very hard to explain, but it's a lived experience. You can only see when somebody walks or does stuff. That's when you can say, yeah, that's it, somebody's faith. And it is challenges you in your life's journey. I was born and raised in Sudan, but now it is called the Republic of South Sudan. We were independent 2 years ago. So we are the youngest country in the world, 2 years old. So I'm probably a baby among all of you, born much later than 200 years of your independence. So I grew up in a situation where we were in a civil war for 50 years. So my life cannot be compared to your life. I went through hardships. As most Africans, young boys, when they grow up, you have a duty to take care of your animals, the goats, the sheep, and you know, those animals. So before I went to school, that's what I did. I had to take care of the goats, and my older brothers had to take care of the, you know, other animals. I come from a family of six girls. I mean, 6 of us, 3 girls and 3 boys. Our youngest sister is in Calgary, Canada. She's Canadian over there. She came to Moyne twice. Then my other young brothers, one of them is back home, and he worked with the American government in the embassy for the last 10 years. Then my kid brother, he's now in the government of my state. He actually came here 2 years ago, up to our invitation to give a talk here at the Moyne College. And here I am, and the other 2 sisters are married, they have their own families. It is this family where I grew up that I really have the strength to be who I am all along. Because of the war, we lost all our parents. And the only strength was to be sticking together, to support the young one, the older one must do whatever you can to survive. And as I grew up, the war started and we had to run to the neighboring country. So I was actually in a refugee, as a refugee before the current refugee where the lost boys come here. I was already a refugee before that time. It was then that in a refugee came in Uganda, and I'll tell my 400 students, where is Uganda? Lisa.
North of Rwanda.
Good. So I had to go south, and therefore I was a refugee there. And it happened, it was there that I went to school. And I did my primary school and completed it. And then my vocation to priesthood actually started when I went to this priest. He came from Mexico. He was a Comboni priest, and I admired the way he was doing stuff. And I was so little, and then I ended up being an altar boy. And then he was so nice. He told me, say, you know what, you want to go to seminary? I said, why not? And it was there that I entered to the seminary in Uganda. But later, South Sudan kind of had autonomy government, we had to go back. But as we went back to Sudan, we had to stay in the border, but I have to cross the border to Uganda, which was not safe. I was already used to, you know, our traditional way of life, you know, taking care of goats here and there. And then hunting. We loved hunting. As we were making, you know, this kind of taking care of goats, we always loved hunting. And, you know, I always told that story to some of you. We always went hunting, but not with guns, but with spears. So I remember one of the occasions we went for this hunting expedition. It was actually to poach a pot that they had the animals, Uganda side. So we say, you know, we need to eat, you know, so we have to kill these animals. So we went there with friends of mine, and I had two spears. They have to be sharp. And we normally go, you have a kind of horn like this to bring the animals closer to you. And as they run around, you kill them. So one day, actually, we went there and we saw some antelopes, very many of them. So we said, you guys, run this way, you run that, and then they will come, and we spear them. As they went, the guys went, this animal ran. One came close to me and I where's my spear? I thought that was okay. The thing came, this antelope came, and as it came and ran, I speared it, boom! And I said, ooh, I thought I killed the thing. But the deer bounced, never even went inside. And I saw the animal going, and we were running. My friend told me, you're a fool. You never did your spear well. I was ashamed. But then you see, but that was fun for us, you know. So I missed the meat that time, but somebody else did something else, and we shared. That was a good kind of story. But it's a true story, I swear. Yeah, it took place. In any case, so I continued with the seminary and then finished it up in Uganda, and then went to Kenya, and that's where I did my bachelor's in philosophy and bachelor's in theology. And then went back to Sudan in '87, I got ordained. And actually, after ordination, I was taught to teach in the seminary for a couple of years. And not much later, so I belonged to this order called the Apostle of Jesus. And for some reason, they asked me to go back to the early places. I became Secretary General. So I was in administration for 6 years. So administration for me is something. So I've dealt with so many things as administrator. But then, you know, I looked at myself, I'm still young, although I don't know when I was born actually. But anyway, I told these guys, I can't continue this kind of stuff. I need to go to school. They told me, all right, you go. So I applied to the United States. And then St. Louis University actually accepted me right away. So the fall of 1996 is when I went to St. Louis University, and it was there that, for some reason, you know, I met other people. It's a Catholic Jesuit university. I stayed with the Merriman Fathers, so it was such a community of faith. And I entered the religious, they call it theological department. So we studied a lot of things to do with faith, God, here and there. So I ended up doing the major on medieval historical theology, which is Middle Ages. Most Africans don't even do this kind of medieval studies. I said to myself, this looks cool, let's do it. And I love it. I love that historical perspective in the medieval world. But my faith was much more strong, especially in St. Louis, you know, with a different culture, American way. First of all, to eat certain things called burgers, I was never used to. And then some friends took me to lobster. What's it called? Red lobster, yeah. And so they were ordering this crab thing here and there. I said to myself, oh my God, I can't eat these things. Because for us, you know, those kind of things just we don't. I didn't know. I said, no, I can't. So I had to survive anyway, so I have to add something else. You know, some salad here and there. But it took a long time for me to adapt to the different culture. But one thing that really motivated me, the strength of the community at St. Louis University, was the effect of friendship. Or, you know, many times we are together, we encourage each other, and always thinking of my family, talking to them on the phone or something like that, strengthened my faith to continue in the midst of struggle against the difficulties of cultural adaptation. And then the climate, the snow was just another, you know, completely different thing. For the first time, I saw snow when I came here. It was actually the earliest snow we ever had. We went to an Indiana game. A friend of mine from Indiana, in which we were classmates, he told me, let's go for a ball game, football. You know, football. I said, okay, let's go. Then we get some snow. He kind of tricked me, said, get it, scoop it. I scooped like this. It was so cold. My hands, I do like, took a picture. I sent to Africa. I said, man, what did he do to me? It was very cold. I thought it was a white thing. That was the first experience in 1996. And St. Louis was a little bit better than here. When I came to, after finishing my doctoral master's degree in St. Louis University in 1999, then continued and finished St. Louis in 2003, I happened to get an opportunity for fellowship in Moyne. Go figure, I'm already in Moyne 13 years teaching here, so I've seen many of you go through my classes. But the strength, as you say, the journey of faith, through all these things, it will take a long time, many hours to talk about personal life. It's very hard. I don't like to appear as if I'm praising myself or whatever. But the struggle of faith, once you believe that there is somebody who guides you, even if it's so hard, you can succeed it. I always looked at those who are ahead of me and I say, if you can, I can do it. You know, in faith, in a classroom, whatever like that. And that unity that we had, particularly as a group, was a strength for me in my faith. And believing that although I have lost my parents, but I have my family, the source of my faith, and we stick together up to today. And as I told you many times, we talk a lot on the phone. And I come from a family where two parents came from two different tribes. So we speak so many languages, my mom's language, my dad's language, then combined with English and other languages. So it is always fun when I talk, in particular my sister, because I had to learn how to cook. Back home, women cook, and you don't know what to do with it. So you have to eat and wait outside there. So when I came to America, I had to figure it out. Either I die or you better go to the kitchen. So there was no option. I had to be there. So one time, with a friend who was also from Africa, from Kenya, we had gone to New Jersey and we were in this religious house. They told us, okay, we are all gone. There's no cook here over the weekend. There's a chicken there, so there's a microwave, do it. So we didn't know how to do it with the microwave then, how to time it out. So we got a real chicken, a whole chicken, put it in the microwave, and timed it up 2 hours. And so we went upstairs. After 2 hours, we saw the house was smoking and smelling. We came out, the chicken was completely ashes. I said, oops. So it was an experience. I have to figure it out now. So anyway, all along, I never gave up. My sister told me, if you have to do this thing, do this, all the fun. One time I made a mistake putting salt, I put the whole thing. I put so it all screwed up. Everything was not right. But in any case, the beauty of talking and encouraging one another as a family, as a community, has been the source of my strength. And this has reinforced my vocation, not just as a priest, but particularly as a teacher. I love teaching, I love working. As a young priest in South Sudan, the Archbishop of the place told me to be in charge of youth. There is an international movement called JEC in the world. It was founded in Belgium. JEC in French means Jeunesse Études Chrétiennes, young Christian students. So in Africa, it's very popular in Europe, but I don't think in America it's much about it. So I was a national chaplain for young people, and that's why I really love working with young people. I can know their mentality, how they work, so I can deal with them very easily. So I was able to represent the country in West Africa, India, all over the world. So this experience for me was reinforced with the fact when I met other people from other world religions. In India, I met Hindus, Buddhists, and all these people were at a 3 weeks conference of interreligious dialogue between Africa and Asia. That for me, my faith grew up right there. I can see each person was very motivated in their own religion, but we were able to talk for 3 weeks. Then I had to take a group of students to West Africa, to Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire. That's where actually the cacao was, and palm wine. It was so beautiful over there. And to go back to the villages and sit down with the younger people. They were speaking French, I had to accommodate. I come from Anglophone, they speak Francophone. But the beauty that you could even just talk with the smile, with the gestures. That motivates you to be who you are. That doesn't matter where you come from. The question is sometimes not even the language, but your attitude, your approach to life, to other people. You disarm enmity. You disarm people who are angry. So that for me is faith by itself. It's faith that you can believe in others and you can respect other people too. You don't have to always think you are right. You must be humble to say at one point, I can't do it. There's nothing wrong about that. So to this day, I would just say, coming here has been for me, an inspiration because I found a community where, to a greater extent, we have been, getting along with people, with students, faculty, my department, and elsewhere. It has been a joy to relive my African roots without completely getting out of it. I always tell people, a person without roots has no roots, cannot survive. You must also have your family values. You must have your faith. You must have that respect you have for other people. That is so important. You don't pretend to be that you're better than anybody. You couldn't be. God gave you those gifts, but for the community, not for yourself, not for selfish interest. So with this, therefore, I hope my sharing of faith could be, could go for 2 hours. There are others, more sad stories, experiences. That probably may not be necessary to say at this point of time, but I will stop here because we have only 1 hour, so that we can share together. If you have a question, I can answer to the best of my knowledge. Meanwhile, I have a sip with my ancestors some wine. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Father Makuja. So, if you could, if anybody has a question that came up for them listening to Father Makuja, please write that down now, and our wonderful volunteers will come around and grab them from you. And then we have time probably for at least a few questions, hopefully, for Father Makuja to respond to.
Meanwhile, the bread now was one thing which kind of forgot. It goes with the cacao. Should have, cut it. Cut the bread. Actually, I brought my stool that I thought I could sit down, but this is the way we do home. I want to sit down and talk to you, but people could not see me. So normally, you carry it with you. So you go anywhere else, you just sit down. You don't need a chair. So you go somewhere else, it represents, so easy. If someone wants to try to sit down with this, you can try. Come on. Put it down and sit down. On top. You got it. That's good. That's good. That's good. I bought it from home. They gave me as a gift.
I'm just trying to sit in the kids' chair back at home. So.
I just sit on it? I want to sit on it.
You want to sit?
Yeah, I want to sit on it.
Yeah, I want to sit.
I don't know how to do yoga. I'm not flexible.
Yeah, sit exactly.
I think my butt's too big.
No,
I can't do it. Wait.
put your legs. Oh,
I thought I was supposed to balance.
Sit exactly like that. That's it.
I thought I was supposed to balance.
No. Good man.
Nice. What do I win?
Somebody else? Someone want to sit? Come on, your sports girl. Come here. Yeah. You got it. Okay, good.
It's so very convenient. It's comfortable. I want one.
Dominic, come on.
So I want one.
Just for you.
Come on. Okay. So we have a few questions here. Let's see.
All right, so Father Makuja, one student asked, how does your African heritage and tradition mix with the Catholic religion?
That's a very good question. It's just on my court. What I've done in theology, as you say, I'm a historical theologian. All along, I've done what we call inculturation. Inculturation, some of you who took my 300 level, I probably explain a little more. Catherine, right? Inculturation is to make the Christian faith speak my language. So it is to be African. So what we have done theologically is to make sure the Christian faith, Catholic in this matter, is expressed in African categories. It is going to be the same Catholic faith, it's the same Christian faith, but we have come way far and recognizing that the way Christianity came to Africa, it came with some, with some colors. And sorry to say, it came with white colors. Because the missionaries were either from Italy, from France, and the way it was expressed, they brought their own traditions and explained them to us. But this tradition eventually did not make sense. And so contemporary theology after Vatican II now has challenged all of our theologians to see how, without diminishing the doctrines of the church, we are able to express this doctrine in a way our people could understand, could live, And so today, our church and myself, I'm trying to do a lot with enculturation. I've written my doctorate, actually, dissertation was on Pope Gregory the Great and his effort to enculturate the faith among the Anglo-Saxons in England. He told the people there, don't destroy the temple of the Anglos, the pagan people there. If you want people to come to your faith, don't destroy their own artifacts, don't destroy their cultural thing, but cleanse them and give it that new faith. So that is true for me and for our people, that we have a vibrant church in Africa today that is so vibrant compared to the West, because now it is as it was born, incarnated into the African culture, expressed in its own way. We have the dancing church. Whereby we express tradition, the way we do things here, with a drum. The drum become a voice, the talking drums. When the missionaries came to Africa, they thought that this was the voice for the devil.
Wow.
And so they forbade it. We could not use the drums in the church during the colonial time. But now we say, hell no. These are for us interacting with the spiritualities. And so we can do our faith, and actually it is just down to earth. The faith is very strong. Good.
Thank you. Another student asked, can you describe the first time you experienced God, a time when your faith was reaffirmed, or a mystical experience?
I would say one of the things that really was the incident when I had to travel back to the seminary and crossing through Uganda to Kenya. My faith was tested because Uganda had a dictatorship government, and they were catching people and you could be killed anytime. And then there was difficulty between Uganda and Sudan. As we traveled one time with other tourists, so we're just trying, with a truck. We reached this town in the evening and we were trying to go, to get a rest. As we went to this kind of hotel and restaurant, the military of that country came and recognized me among other tourists. Most of them were from Europe. And immediately kind of accused me that, I was a rebel come from Sudan, going through. And I told them, no, I'm just a student, I'm going crossing. They literally came and mocked me, they took me to the military barrack, trying to accuse me. It was a very tight moment for me. But I tried to explain, I said, please, if you want, I can go back to my country, but don't do anything else. There's nothing, I'm just a student in my box, going to school. It was only then when the officers were brought and asked me to tell my story. I told them the story. I just came from my country, I'm crossing here, going like that. Your officers came, kind of beat me up, and then they took all the money I had. And when the officer, who was a bit more wiser, he was so mad. He actually beat them and told them, get all the money and give to these men. I was rescued, but I was tested. I wanted to go back and forget about the thing what I'm pursuing. It was a hard moment. And those are moments that I don't want to share, but it tested my faith. And then I went later, I said, I cannot give it up. It will be a weakness. It will be a weakness to give up when the struggle becomes hard.
Thank you. As a person, another student asked, as a person who began early life as a refugee, did you find that this experience made it easier to dedicate or to devote yourself to following Christ?
I would say certainly I got baptized in that refugee camp, because that's where maybe it was a real chance. Before, I was just doing my, following my traditional ways of life. It was only in the refugee camp that, through hardships, that the missionaries who were there were able to, to baptize us. And that's where my faith really started. In the refugee camp, difficulties, hardships, but we managed because of the faith we got, and we managed to go through.
I'm sorry, I keep putting bread in my mouth and then get caught. Anyway, so Father Makuja, as a college professor, and as a college religion professor, you have the opportunity to teach young adults about religion, as well as faith. During your time at Moyne, what have students taught you about your faith?
Oh, good. Yeah, in the first place, mostly as a professor, we really don't teach about faith in a religious study, because we have people from different backgrounds, Muslim, Buddhist, whatever. So our effort is not to preach or something like that, but by our own life and example, they can see who we are. And many times we don't need to parade them. So we are not supposed to proselytize, as it were. But we challenge the students in their faith by asking questions, like Shemes has just said. Without even just showing who you are, they get it. But they also challenge to me, my challenge, or the challenge I get from them is this. It's a cultural thing. You know, I come from a different cultural background. From the very beginning, culturally, linguistically, I come from a different background. So this has challenged my faith and my professionalism. First of all, just to speak. You know, many times I speak like a parrot, and people may not get it. But I have to be patient. I have to be able, many times, just to check and say, are they getting me? I must be slow. I must slow down. And that's not very easy. You know, many times people say, well, you maybe don't hear you, don't understand you. Yes, but I don't understand you too. You know? Because sometimes some of you speak, you know, say, what up? What up? That's not English. Am I right? Mother? Yeah. So some of these things. So there's something going around here. You know, then I just say to myself, I have my defects, I accept it. You know, I don't pretend to be perfect in any way. So there's that mutual benefit of learning from each other back and forth. But I think challenging oneself and accepting the reality that you are never perfect is the best way to go. Never pretend that you know everything. Otherwise you are God. You know, we all learn and we challenge each other. And what I like in Moyne in my courses is once in a while stop and we talk. Because I believe my students have something to offer. Any one of them should never be ignored. They have something to offer. Whether they look stupid in the eyes of others, for me, I value everybody have something to offer in the classroom, in the faith. And now, if anything goes to make sense, they will do it outside when they go to their villages.
Thank you very much. And thank you so much, everyone, for your questions. Unfortunately, we don't have time for all of them. I know that we have trivia tonight, so we're going to slowly wrap things up. However, I assume that Father Makuja would be open to your questions if you didn't have the chance to have them answered, to ask them in person. So thank you. Let's have a round of applause for So again, this was our first Koinonia in Cocoa, and thank you again, Father Makuja. This was awesome. I really appreciated your ritual, starting off with that, and answering the questions as well as sharing pieces of your faith journey. It was really great. The next Koinonia in Cocoa will take place in November on the 14th, which is another Thursday at 9 p.m. Here in the Corcoran Lounge. The presenter will be Jeannie Murphy of the Moyne Athletic Department. Jeannie's a 1995 graduate of Moyne. She serves as the Associate Director for Student Athlete Success and Senior Woman Administrator. During her time at Moyne, Jeannie also coached the women's basketball team for 9 years. And as an undergraduate student, she was a 4-year starting point guard for the Dolphins. So hope some of you can come out for that one in November. We'll be advertising again for that. And thank you again, everybody, for coming out, and have a great night.
Thank you.